Welcome to Oddball. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That, as always, is Amin Elhassan. And Amin, we have to be honest with our viewers. It is mid-September, and there is not a lot of NBA news going on.
Yeah, it's just a sad fact of the state of the times.
However, the presidential debate on Tuesday did remind me that there's a position open at Oddball for talent in chief. And look, if you're down, we could get a moderator in here and have a debate of our own.
Yeah, I guess I'm down. Yeah, let's do it.
Hello, viewers at home. I'm your host, Antonio Muir, and welcome to the first ever Oddball Debate. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining me in studio. And Amin, I'm sorry you couldn't be bothered to show up in person. Our first question will go to Amin. Amin, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has said that there wasn't discussion of expansion at this week's meeting of the league's Board of Governors, but that the topic will be addressed at some point, quote unquote, this season. Amin, what is your position on expansion and why?
Well, first of all, Antonio, that was a very nasty remark you made. I noticed you didn't give my opponent a nasty remark. You just saved one for me, and I feel like that's very biased. I've done your show a bunch of times, and I thought we always had a good relationship, but I don't think I'll be doing your show in the future. Now, as far as expansion goes, I'm really big on expansion. I think expansion is really good for the health of the NBA, and I want to see NBA basketball exported all across the globe. We should have NBA franchises in multiple different countries, more so than what we have right now, but not before we have expansion in American cities like Seattle and Las Vegas. These should be American jobs first and foremost, but I'm really big on expansion. I think this could be huge for the NBA.
First of all, viewers at home, you're going to hear a lot of lies from my opponent tonight, including when he says we need expansion around the globe. This man is not devoted to building the American talent that we need here in the NBA, that we are rapidly losing to countries like Lithuania. If I am talent in chief, I will ensure that we have a robust program of having NBA players who talk on our show about being American and playing basketball while being American.
She's full of lies. You know, her boss, she didn't say any of these things when her boss was talking about it. Then she changed her mind and started talking all the other things, including
I would just like to
trying to end the season. See, I'm talking, including trying to end the season after July. You know, that's just ridiculous. And that's more the ridiculousness.
I mean, thank you very much. Your time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, Charlotte, it's time for your first question. Charlotte, voters are upset about the inflated price of role players, but your Celtics were able to sign 25-year-old swingman Lonnie Walker IV to an Exhibit 10 deal. Why do price increases not seem to apply to the NBA's upper class?
Well, first of all, Antonio, I'd like to set the record straight. The reason the Celtics used the Exhibit 10 deal is because they are following the rules. As a second apron team, Lonnie Walker could go back down to the G League. There's no promise of being on the main roster. But what the American people need to be worried about are teams like the Golden State Warriors being over the luxury tax for years and going out and getting talent like Kevin Durant from other teams from a call in a parking lot. That's what we're really talking about here. And that is what I promised you, viewers at home. With me as talent in chief, you will not have to worry about teams behaving in such depraved ways.
Lies. All she does is tell lies. She tells the same lies that her boss, Joe Mazzulla, was saying, claiming that he went to Broadway and was watching actors and counting the amount of seconds between breaths because he thought that was something applicable to basketball. And that's the kind of lies you hear coming out of their side of the aisle and their parts of the NBA. You know, she doesn't want to talk about, she said, I'm surprised you didn't bring up Joe Mazzulla, because she knew I was going to bring up Joe Mazzulla because the fact is, she's been a failure, and Joe Mazzulla has been a failure from a PR perspective.
Charlotte, I do need to ask you about Joe Mazzulla because he's been known for some questionable remarks. He's forced players to watch UFC fighters be choked unconscious. He calls himself a quote-unquote big spite guy. And just this week, he said this.
I think the word defend is a very passive aggressive term. And you go back to the animal kingdom, some of the strongest animals don't defend. They're the most aggressive, and they attack the most.
Some intense words from Coach Mazzulla there. How do you respond, Charlotte?
Well, first of all, I am not Joe Mazzulla. I would also like to point out when he talks about these animals, he does already have that dog in him, as do the rest of the Boston Celtics, which we need to focus on. We need to pay them more respect. And that is really what this debate is about. We need to understand that the Boston Celtics, despite winning a championship, have been talked about as though they just threw it all away. Jayson Tatum is a champion, an NBA champion, which used to be something that meant something around here. And when I am talent in chief, I will ensure that NBA champions are given the respect that they deserve.
You know why you can't believe her? Because she thinks DMs and text messages are two completely different forms of communication. You pick up your phone, you open an app, you send a message to someone. It's the same, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same. You're reading text, whether you read it in the Instagram app or in the iMessage app or WhatsApp. It's all the same thing. It's the same process. And when I was in charge, nobody had a problem. Everybody loved the communication. They felt like they were communicating better than ever. Matter of fact, that's what they always tell me. They would tell me, man, I mean, you were such a great communicator. And then Charlotte Wilder, her boss, came around, and now all of a sudden, nobody can communicate because nobody recognizes all the different communication styles.
If I may, text and DMs are categorically different things. To send a text, it means you were thinking of the person. You picked up your phone, you went to the messages app, and you sent them a note. On Instagram, you saw something lazy and thought of someone and then sent it to them without any actual substance. So, I mean, I would like to say that you are that is depraved and disgraceful behavior.
That is not true. That is not true.
It is true.
I mean, we did contact several app developers. They are different apps, so therefore they are different processes.
Okay, well,
I mean, let's get to your next.
I read that they're the same. I saw someone say online.
We got confirmation they're different, but I mean, let's get to your next question, please. Charles Barkley may be a free agent after next year. I mean, what role would Charles Barkley have in your cabinet?
I love Charles Barkley. He's one of my favorite people. Matter of fact, I was just out on the golf course with him the other day, and I told him, Charles, you're one of my favorite people. And he said, oh, man, I've never heard that before. You are the very first person to say that to me, Amin. And I said, of course, because I'm always the first to come to these things. I'm something like a pioneer when it comes to that. Now, as far as with Charles Barkley, what role he'll play as soon as he leaves, a very funny show, a very great show, although failing because some of the people over there, I don't know what they're doing, but I would say if Charles Barkley would come on my show, he would come here, we'd have a good time, we'd crack open a couple of beverages. You know, I don't drink, but Charles does, and I'd love to have a drink with him and maybe hit the golf course and talk about the NBA the way we loved it, the way it always was, not this new basketball where everybody's shooting threes, the way it used to be. We need to make the NBA great again, and that's where it starts, right here on Oddball, when I am the talent in chief.
As I said, folks, you're going to hear a lot of lies. Amin has been known to enjoy a beverage, and I would ask my opponent, if you are so close with Charles, if you are golfing with him so often, we've been doing this show for a year and a half, why have we not yet had him on? And in fact, when I tried to go find him in New York City when he was here eating street meat, why did you not give me the contact of said Charles Barkley to facilitate that? This man is full of lies. He will not follow through on these promises. The American people deserve better.
He said it. You heard it yourself, ladies and gentlemen. She was the czar of getting the guests, wrangling the guests, and she couldn't do it. She could not do the job. She could not find Charles Barkley.
Ridiculous.
I could have called Charles Barkley with just a press of a button in my phone.
Though.
But
you didn't.
You were the one. You were in charge. That was your responsibility, and you failed. You're a failure, and that's why I need to be talent in chief.
This is what you're looking at, America.
Charlotte, all right, let's move on to your next question. The Clippers' new stadium, the Intuit Dome, will reportedly seat 18,000 fans. Charlotte, are you in favor of packing the courts with more seats?
First of all, let me say, there are a lot of wonderful stadiums and arenas across the United States. I just happen to believe that real fan bases, such as the Celtics, the Knicks, as much as it pains me to say this, even the Lakers, do not need to build a new building as the Clippers and Steve Ballmer have done in order to get people in the building. I am not interested in a team that needs to bribe fans to show up with fancy walls of seats and more toilets than you have ever seen in one place. If you go to an NBA game for the toilets, America, I just think we all need to take a good look inside and re-examine our values.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you hear what she's saying. You hear what she's trying to do to our great NBA. Let me tell you something. Steve Ballmer, what a guy. I love him. He's great. And, you know, when he said he was going to build into a dome, a lot of people thought he was going to be taking taxpayer money. He didn't take a single taxpayer dollar in order to build his building. And I said, hey, let's celebrate this guy as he wants fans to be able to go to the bathroom and come back to their seats in time. Meanwhile, in Charlotte's arena over there in Boston, where there's one bathroom every 75,000 yards in the middle of the NBA finals, I had to do laps and laps and wait in line just to use a urinal. What's that all about? Also, an elevator that takes 45 minutes to come. I missed the entire first quarter waiting for the elevator to go from
Ballmer. I have to cut you off. Steve Ballmer is able to do that with no public money because he has so much money that it is GDP of a small country. What are we doing, America, letting these men own our teams? Have you seen him dancing at the Microsoft 95's launch? Clapping like a
great dancer.
seal?
I love his dance moves.
Clapping
I
like
love
a
his
seal?
energy. That's why the Clippers are a rising brand. I've said it time and time again. Watch out for those Clippers. I was actually talking to my kid the other day, and my kid was saying, what about the Lakers? I said, no, watch out for those Clippers.
I don't know if we have time for your kid. I'm sorry, I need to.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
The Clippers logo is also an affront. No, I mean, it's an affront to the NBA. It looks like the logo of a wealth management company, which, frankly, under Steve Ballmer, I would argue it is not far off from.
Thanks for staying quiet. I mean, that was very nice of you.
I have nothing to say to that.
Understood. I mean, this next question is for you. De'Aaron Fox released a new shoe on the Steph Curry brand. I mean, what are your thoughts on this Curry-Fox collaboration?
Well, I'll tell you something, Antonio. You see a lot of stories about them eating curried fox in Springfield, the birthplace of basketball. I said, whoa, how barbaric. What are we doing? We're allowing wildlife that should be protected. And my opponent always is talking about protections, but not making any protections for the poor foxes that are being curried by these people and eaten in the streets of Springfield, Massachusetts. What a disaster. That's what's happening. It would never happen if I were talent in chief.
Nobody is currying foxes in Springfield. No one is eating dogs in Springfield either. This is just not, this is fake news. And the Fox Curry collab is actually, it's very inspiring for young children to see a new generation coming up working with an older one. And when I'm talent in chief, we will only have more of that.
Folks, it's time for our last question. This is to Amin. Amin, you've been in denial about this for quite some time now, but your voters are asking for the truth. Who won the 1988 Defensive Player of the Year award?
Well, it's very interesting. And when you ask the people, Antonio, if you do your research, you'll find that the Michael Jordan was completely fraudulent. He made up all of his stats. He had a guy sitting on the sideline just making up lies, saying he had more steals and the other team had turnovers. And I think, quite frankly, it's quite ridiculous that we even allowed that to happen. And also, the other thing that I think is ridiculous that we haven't talked about is that I am such a huge NBA fan. That's why I should be talent in chief. Look at me. I'm dressed like I'm going to Madison Square Garden with my nice suit and my Knicks jersey on top of a button-up shirt, just like all the Wall Street super fans that go to Knicks games. And meanwhile, my opponent looks like she's going to a Harvard rally against the NBA, against basketball, because she hates basketball. That's the truth. She hates basketball. No. You look at her past, she's been on sidelines, having fun in college football. Now, all of a sudden, she's turned around because her boss isn't here anymore, and she's going to be a basketball person. Don't fall for it, ladies and gentlemen.
America, this is the same old. This is the same old tired playbook that we can expect from Amin, and the truth that Michael Jordan won. Okay, Michael Jordan won that DPOY of the year. There is no taking that back. There is no taking that back, and it's a simple yes or no question.
No, we I think so. If you do the research, if you see the people who are not corrupt in all the great voting precincts for the Defensive Player of the Year award, you'll see that there was an inordinate amount of votes. And by the way, I got more votes. I got more votes than any person in the history of Oddball for Oddball in Chief. And
nobody voted for you.
They had to create fake votes in order for Michael Jordan, just like those.
I said we should just mute his mic the whole time.
Okay. All right. Charlotte, Amin, thank you so much. I'm Antonio Muir, and that's all for the Oddball Debate questions today. Thank you both for participating.
Welcome back to Oddball. Yeah, that was a rousing debate.
Yeah. When do you think we're gonna find out who won?
Sometime in November, probably. But right now, it is time for a versus draft. Amin, you and I are going to take turns picking our top 5 MVP candidates for the upcoming NBA draft. I had to be reminded of how a versus draft works, but I think I've, I'm just going to do my best here. Once one of us picks a player, they are off the board, and then the other person picks, right?
So a draft.
That's how this works. Yeah, okay, a draft, sure. Yeah, great, perfect.
Got it.
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. And remember, guys, this is who we think is going to win MVP, not necessarily who's the best player or any of the other metrics that people are using. So I'm going to go with the elements that I know in order to be an MVP candidate, a top MVP candidate, right? Number one, you got to play on a good team, a good to great team. You can't be on a mediocre team. Number two, the voters like a fresh new name. And so
you're going to take mine. I know it.
Of course, everyone knows. It's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's my pick because we all expect Oklahoma City to be probably the best team in the league next year. He's young question, best player on the team. And he's a new name. I know he's been on the ballot last couple of years, but this is a new sexy name that voters can get behind.
Okay. So he is plus 600 in DraftKings odds to be MVP. That is very annoying because obviously that was going to be my first pick, but I agree with you, Amin. Voters like a fresh face, especially because the Embiid Jokic back and forth, I think people are getting a little tired of, and they want something new. I think I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards because I think it's the same reason of Shai. I think he's on the Timberwolves were great last year. I think they'll keep getting better. Ant will keep getting better. He's such a crowd-pleasing favorite in his press conferences, which I think sometimes does matter. So Anthony Edwards is plus 1,200 on DraftKings for an MVP candidate.
All right, Charlotte, I see what you got there. And Anthony Edwards is a great name. That's definitely a name I got to shake the debate voice out. I was going to go, I know, what a name, Anthony Edwards.
I'm like, you would choose Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and swipe it out from beneath the American people. Oh my God. Okay, so your turn.
I would say so more to this concoction, this recipe list for what MVPs look like. Well, first of all, MVPs are great players, right? What do great players like more than anything? They love revenge. They love revenge over slights. They love revenge over being kind of thought of as less than. And what voters love is to say, I'm sorry, to apologize to people that they have slighted. So you combine the drive for revenge and drive for greatness of Jayson Tatum with the voters who didn't even put him on the ballot last year. I think Jayson Tatum is definitely going to finish top 5 in MVP voting next year because the Celtics are going to do well. He's going to play really well, upset about everything that happened this summer. And the voters are going to be like, how did we mess that up?
Okay. I see what you're doing there. I'm going to say Jaylen Brown because I don't think anybody has more to prove. Yes, I think that he played better than Jayson Tatum in the finals.
Yes, he did.
And the not being chosen for Team USA for that gold, I think really stung. He's they're all pissed even though they won the championship last year. He wasn't even all NBA. He was, I think that he almost has more chips on his shoulder and he was playing better than Tatum at the end of last year. So I think that he might pull a surprise, come from behind, and do it.
I'd be staggered if I saw him on a ballot. And again, he's a great player, but I don't know if the voters think of him in that way. But I'll tell you who the voters will be thinking about a lot, because the voters, like I said, they love new. They love the story of an underdog. And most importantly, they love whatever the media tells them. And what's the biggest media market there is? It's New York City. It's Jalen Brunson. Now, when you said Jalen, I thought,
oh, damn it. I was going to say that.
I thought you were going with Jalen Brunson. You had Jalen Brown. I was like, all right, have fun with it. I got Jalen Brunson.
I was going to say Jalen Brunson, and then I forgot and panicked and said Jalen Brown. Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I got Jalen Brunson. What do you got as your third pick?
Okay, my third pick, I am going to, you know what? I'm going to Joel Embiid, because I think that he obviously, has never made it to an Eastern Conference final.
Yeah.
And with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, I actually think that they have the best chance they've had in a while. And I mean, talk about chip on your shoulder. He's like mad at everybody all the time. So I think there's a chance that if he stays healthy and has seasons like he has the past couple of years, even though he's not a new name, I think it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the key word there, as you said, if he stays healthy, and that's the thing that you always have to worry about when you talk about Joel Embiid. He's a great player, we know this, but more often than not, he's been knocked out of the MVP race, not because he didn't play well enough, but because he was not available. And as my good friend Marcellus Wiley says, the number one ability is availability. And who's been more available than the 3-time MVP? I can't believe he lasted this long. What? Nikola Jokic? You're just going to let me have him? Okay, make it 4 times. I think he's absolutely going to be top 5 on the ballot.
Okay, so here's a little fun fact about me. When I'm forced to choose something or do something in this pressured environment, I completely crumble, which I think that we're learning in real time here. So 4th, it's like one of those where I'm like, I don't even know if I can think of a single NBA player at this moment. But I am going to go. I'm not choosing Derek White. I have a list. Hold on, I'm cheating. I'm looking at my list of names because I knew this was going to happen.
Who else is on it? Is it
Doncic? Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic. Oh my God! I was like, I know there are some really good players. Those aren't all white. Oh, stop it. Yeah, Luka, because he was good.
Okay.
Your turn.
He's good. He was definitely on my short list. But what we love more than anything is redemption. Redemption and a resounding reaffirmation of something that we already thought before. Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks are going to be resurgent this year. Everyone's kind of counted them out. They've all forgotten them. I think Giannis and Damian Lillard are going to discover the chemistry that eluded them for most of last year. I think Giannis goes ahead and gets on the ballot this year because I think the Bucks are going to be fantastic.
What if I chose Dame as my 5th? Do you think there's honestly, draft aside, do you think that there's a chance that Damian Lillard could be in the bar that we call the MVP conversation?
Yes, if Giannis gets hurt and then they still end up being good, I think Dame at that point becomes an MVP candidate. Yeah. But I think as long as Giannis is there, it's like the same thing with Jaylen Brown. I'm like, yeah, he's great, but you're kind of always playing behind the other guy who's going to get all the opportunities. And did you actually pick Damian Lillard? I see they put it on the board for you. Or were you just asking?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I asked you and now I'm picking it. Wow. So this has been a real lesson. And I just want to say I was really composed and cool in a debate setting. And then you put me back into our normal show and I just completely had to come apart. So
we should have done it the other way around for sure. I want to shout out 2 OLIs to look out for, or outside looking in. Okay. Steph Curry, because I think the Warriors are going to be resurgent. Ja Morant, because I think everyone's forgotten about the Grizzlies, and I think he's coming back with a vengeance. And finally, Zion Williamson finally puts it together this year. And I'm not talking about a sandwich. I'm talking about a complete season.
Narratively, those last 3 would be my favorite. So that's all we have for you today.
Fake
Thanks
deep
for
boy,
watching.
Michael Jordan.
Oh my God.
Fake deep boy. But
can we cut the background music while we're talking?
That was so good.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.